Well, I got another one from the lowlifes for you. So you can see we have a slight problem with our barbed wire here, and another tall tale sign is they threw this ramp over to climb up. So you can see there's the ramp that they used to climb in, the ground's all jostled up, the fence pole came apart, and they cut the barbed wire. So now I'm gonna walk the rest of the fence line and see what else I can find. Let me show you how stupid the person is that cut the barbed wire. Remember, they cut it right there next to that block wall? So for some reason, whenever they built the fence, they stopped the barbed wire right here, and they cut the barbed wire right there next to the fence. So they obviously weren't looking at first. With that being said, they propped this log up right here where the barbed wire stops, and you can see that they were stealing brass shavings at one point in time. So that's right here, and right here you can see where they pulled the fence up, and somebody must have tried to climb under. And look what we found here, just a few feet down. We got a big brass valve, some copper, some brass, some more copper pipe. Wow. So I followed their path all the way down the fence line, which led me to this, where they have cut this open too. So I can see the path pretty clearly where they went in and out through the woods, so I'm gonna follow that and see if I can't find where they're stashing stuff. So unfortunately their path into the woods just looped around and came out on the main road, so I didn't find anything there. And we do have security cameras, an alarm system, and everything else you can possibly think of, but we haven't had any luck with that yet. Well, I spoke too soon. As I was coming back out of the woods there, I stepped right over this piece of copper pipe. Man, my allergies are really messing with me out here in these woods, but I gotta make a couple of decisions. One, do I throw that stuff back over, put it where it goes so I don't lose it, or do I leave it there and camp out tonight in the hopes to catch them? Or do I make a police report, put some type of identifying paint or something on them, and then they can put it out to all the other scrap yards and hopefully catch the person? I'm not really sure which route to go, but I'm gonna have to come up with something. And obviously I'm not gonna post this video until this whole thing evolves and we figure out what's going on, but I'll be sure to update and let you know. So I got quite the update for you guys about the latest break-in case, and it gets kind of crazy, so stay tuned. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, watch the previous video. And from that video, you remember that I had to make a couple decisions of what I thought was going to be the best way to catch these guys. And what we ended up deciding to do is go ahead and clearing everything out of the woods, their stockpile, anything that was propped up against the fence, anything like that, and that pretty much let them know that we were on to them. And then also we went ahead and called the police and let them know what was going on, and they went ahead and scheduled more patrols for the late hours of the evening or early hours of the morning. And we were pretty sure that that wasn't going to stop them, so this is where it gets kind of crazy. We took the copper that we found outside the fence and put it back inside the fence, but this time we spread it out in front of the cameras and set the camera to motion detection. But unfortunately that camera didn't work properly and didn't alert anybody when the motion was detected. And what's so crazy is that my daughter ended up waking up at about 2:30 a.m. and when she woke up, I was like, well, I'll just check the cameras and see what's going on. As soon as I clicked on it, I saw something that we had put there was missing. So I got up and started getting my keys and stuff to head over here and try to see what was going on. And while I was doing that, I switched my phone to one of the other cameras, and lo and behold, I saw two guys with flashlights walking down the fence line. So at this point, I was starting to freak out a little bit, honestly, and I called 911, jumped in the car, ran over here. So the police beat me here and they were locked out of the gate, but while I was on the phone with the dispatch, they were asking me how they could get around the fence to confront these guys. So the officers ended up confronting the guys outside the fence up by our main office building. And when they did that, obviously the guys just dropped what they had and took off running. But this is where it gets even weirder. Before I show you what they got caught carrying out, this is what they had prepped and ready next to the fence. They had 4 buckets of those brass shavings, just like yesterday, and then right there's their machete that they were using to cut down the brush. They had these 2 5-gallon buckets of copper pipe, and this tote of copper pipe prepped and ready to go. So this is what they got caught carrying out when they were confronted by the police, was our brand new truck tires. And it doesn't surprise me that they were trying to steal the tires because of how expensive they are, but it does surprise me a little bit because we had them stored in a Connex container at the very back side of the property, and they probably had to carry those things 200 yards through the woods. Luckily, I think they only got one up there when the police confronted them, and the rest of them were just lined up on the edge of the woods. And what I think is the biggest twist is still yet to come. So I let my non-ferrous manager know what was going on, and I showed him what they had been stealing. And after I did that, I told him to go ahead and start working on getting everything cleaned up, and I was going to go back into the woods and look to see if I could find anything else. And he actually used to work at another local yard, and so while I was in the woods looking around, he called down there just to give him a heads up. Hey, this is what's been taken from here, just be on the lookout for it. And lucky for us, they ended up getting the stolen stuff from the night before. So that means that they have a copy of the ID of the guy who sold it, and a picture of it, and a picture of the material that he brought. So after getting the information from them and double checking our security system and cameras, we were able to verify who it was. And while I was looking around the woods, I came across this bucket full of copper, but I knew it couldn't be from this week because it's full of leaves and cobwebs. But right next to that bucket, there's one of our old uniform jackets. And of course, it has one of our ex-employees' name on it. Here's another update in the latest break-in case at the scrapyard. So an arrest has been made and charges have been filed, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions that will probably never get figured out. And we're all probably wondering the most about that ex-employee's jacket I found out in the woods next to that bucket of copper, but I'll address that last. So you guys pretty much know all the details and evidence we had from the previous videos. But the most important things were knowing exactly what they had stolen and then figuring out where they had sold them so we know who it was. They had a copy of the ID and a picture of them and the material. And then secondly was the video footage. So in the video footage I was able to see 3 guys total, but only one of them matched the description of the guy who actually sold the stuff. And since we were able to positively identify him with the video, he's the one that actually got arrested, and he's been charged with felony breaking and entering and felony larceny. But unfortunately, he wouldn't talk to the cops, so we'll likely never figure out who the other 2 guys are. I have thought about posting their pictures up here on our pay window and offering a cash reward if someone knows who they are, or putting it out on like Facebook Marketplace or for sale groups and see if anyone would come forward with any info. But even if somebody came forward with a name, it would be hard without the additional evidence like the receipt from selling the scrap to get them convicted. But without identifying those guys, it'll be hard to know if this was actually an inside job or not. Which you might be thinking, it had to be an inside job because the employee jacket I found. So the employee jacket I found is actually from a guy who probably worked here about 3 years ago, and he did work here for a couple years. I'm actually thinking that his jacket and that bucket of copper are unrelated to this incident. I do think that that's pretty concrete evidence that at one point in time he was coming through the woods and stealing stuff. But that bucket had been sitting out there for quite a long time. It had a lot of leaves and spider webs inside of it. I also think it was unrelated because they clearly were coming in on 2 different sides of the property. That bucket was found in a different part of the woods than where these last guys were coming in. So I actually do still speak to that ex-employee every once in a blue moon, and I'm definitely going to ask him and confront him about it, even though nothing will be done anyways. I'm very thankful that we've at least been able to get 1 arrest out of the situation, and hopefully that'll send a message to some of these other guys not to come here. I know it's probably not going to stop it forever, but hopefully it's a short-term fix. But we're also going to go ahead and beef up security some more, get additional cameras, razor wire all the fences, fix any part of the fence that's broken or cut through. And like a lot of you guys have suggested, we're looking into other options like junkyard dogs or electrifying the fence, etc. But it's just hard to know where your liability stands if something were to go wrong with that. I'll be sure to let you guys know if anything else develops in the story.